Welcome to the Late Night Race Review.
We're underway with a crawl off the line for George Russell, trying to block Piastri. He does so, but Antonelli will have the move. Antonelli will have second position, and he does. Will it get worse for George Russell? Charles Leclerc is there. Key move. Championship leader upper place. George Russell did not get off the line well. It is very tight in the background. Lando Norris leads. Can Antonelli have a dream first lap? He's putting the pressure on Lando Norris, who maintains the start. Will they get through in the background there? Oh, it was tight. But then, oh, big crash. Massive crash in the background. Max Verstappen into the wall, and the greasy surface finds the home hero into the wall and out of the race.
It was closing with Yuki, almost T-bone him.
I know, I was watching. Yeah, good job there.
Let's go racing once again. Kimi Antonelli off the line, putting pressure on Lando Norris. Antonelli to the inside. Antonelli close with Norris. Antonelli through to the lead on lap one. He cleared one rival in Russell, and on the second start he cleared Lando Norris. It's a dream getaway.
The judge, we will invert cars this lap.
Is he fighting for the win? Or is he planning to catch Norris?
Lando Norris brilliantly wins the Dutch Grand Prix. Back-to-back Grand Prix victory in Formula One for the world champion, who is accessing the very most of his talent. And he has proven so again with a storming drive.
Woo. Another one, well done. Thank you, everyone. Let's keep pushing. It's not easy enough. The fight's still on. Let's keep going.
Make sure to stick around as we wrap up the episode with our predictions game and take a look at our F1 Fantasy League. And don't forget to support the podcast by clicking those like, follow and subscribe buttons. Welcome on into the Late Night Race Review. My name is Aidan Scott, and joining me this evening, as always, is Damien Scott. And making his return this week is Isidro Gonçalves. Isidro, we missed you last week for our summer break episode. Not only did you miss the chance to talk about Williams, Aston Martin and Cadillac, you also missed my incredible singing. What excuse do you have for us for missing talking about F1 last week?
It was not on my plans, but I did hear your beautiful voice.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'll give you some credit there. You redeemed yourself there. I was going to be hard pressing you with asking you some very difficult questions there, just to see what you were up to. There's no excuse for missing F1, but you'll get away with that. I like that. And Damien, how are you keeping?
Not too bad. And he also missed out on calling Red Bull a midfield team for about 10 or 15 minutes straight.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's true, but we managed to get that in there for you, Isidro. I don't know if you listened to the episode, but
yeah, I did.
We made sure to call Red Bull a midfield team.
Facts.
Yeah, exactly. You were with us in spirit. I just couldn't pull off the voice though. That's the only thing. That's the only thing we were missing was the Isidro voice. I couldn't do it.
Give it time.
Give it time, that's it. Well, look, folks, we made it to round 12 of the 2026 Formula One season for the final Dutch Grand Prix on the F1 calendar. A final goodbye to Zandvoort as a circuit wasn't renewed after 2026 due to rising costs and unfortunately due to lack of investment. But all is not lost because next year the Dutch GP is being replaced by another incredible rollercoaster of a track in the form of Portimao. That's right, this time next year Portimao will be returning to our screens. But speaking of returns, not only did we all return after the summer break ready for some F1 action, Yuki Tsunoda, Mr. Hothead himself, made his return this weekend by stepping into Liam Lawson's seat at Racing Bulls, due to Liam Lawson stepping into Isaac Hadjar's seat at Red Bull Racing, due to Hadjar injuring himself over the summer break. That's right, Max and Liam were pairing up yet again with both Lindblad and Yuki holding the fort down at Racing Bulls. But from all of us, and look, it goes without saying, hopefully Isaac makes a very speedy recovery in time for Monza. But anyway, chaps, Zandvoort. Oh, Zandvoort, the Dutch Grand Prix. What a weekend we had in store for us, because not only did we get an incredibly chaotic Grand Prix, we were also treated to a sprint weekend. What a way to get things going back again after the summer break. Chaps, we'll quickly break down the sprint race, but honestly, I went into this race with a lot of excitement. F1 back on our screens, it's always great to have it back. But honestly, and look, I don't know about yous, that was probably one of the most boring sprint races that we've gotten in a while. Like, look, what we'll do is we'll take a quick look at this, because at the start of the race, yes, it was a clean start by everyone. We had Leclerc and Russell both of them having great starts. We had Antonelli making up places on Piastri down into turn 1. We had Antonelli getting a little bit feisty with Leclerc. Hulkenberg, he DNF'd around lap 7. We had Lando having a bit of a moment with the McLaren. He was having a lot of problems with stability on the car. But I really feel that the only kind of action that we got during that sprint race was Leclerc finally getting by Lando Norris on lap 18 to take P2. And then eventually it finished up with George Russell in P1, Leclerc in P2, and Norris in P3. Finally, Georgie boy is getting somewhat back into form after the old summer break. But obviously, we'll talk about the Grand Prix in a few moments. Isidro, you weren't with us here last week to talk about the summer break. I'm sure you're dying to get all your views in now after that incredible sprint race that we got. What did you make of it? What did you think? Am I wrong in saying that, or did I miss anything from that race? Because honestly, I feel like those were the only things that sort of stood out there.
The sprint race was quite boring. I think it was good if you were George Russell, because it kept your spirits high, thinking that the Sunday would be as good as a Saturday. But that was it. The sprint race was, like you said, it was very boring. Maybe if the rain was not as fast going and just stay there for the 45 minutes, maybe things would be different. But yeah, it was quite boring.
And even if they started that race just even like maybe 5 or 10 minutes later, we actually could have got a bit of rain, because you could even see in the last sort of like 3 to 4 laps they were coming across in the commentary going, oh, there might be rain coming in, this could get feisty, or this could mix things up. Of course, typical Sky F1 trying to blue ball all of us when it comes to rain coming in during the middle of a race. And you could even see the clouds in the distance coming over, and you're like, oh, this is going to be brilliant. And then you're coming down to the last lap and you just feel absolutely robbed. And of course, the rain just feckin' opens in the skies literally as they're coming across the line.
Like they did it on purpose.
It's like they did it on purpose. Totally scripted. This is all scripted. Damien, what did you make of that sprint race? Was there anything else that kind of stood out for you during that? Because honestly, it just, again, it was like the first 5 minutes and then I was like, yeah, I just switched off.
Yeah, nothing really to add, to be honest. I think the only thing that really happened was Leclerc getting past Norris into second place. That was about it, really. And I was praying for the rain to come down a little bit earlier, so it looked like we're maybe going to get 2 or 3 laps rain. Different teams were saying different things. Bernie Collins was going mad that she didn't have a weather app, and it would have been great if we got everybody diving in for either intermediates or wets, whatever it might have been, and seeing if anybody was going to stay out and just kind of, brave it out, depending how much it was going to come down. But alas, we didn't get it, and sprint race was over. So good race though for Russell and Leclerc, though they did well to deserve the 1-2 there. But other than that, really nothing to write home about.
Yeah, no, you're definitely hitting the nail on the head in that one. Like, it was obviously good races for George and Charles and stuff like that, and obviously good points to pick up going into Sunday. And of course, today, Sunday rolled around, and we all thought to ourselves, oh, this is just going to be the exact same story again, because obviously, look, Zandvoort isn't really typically known for great overtakes. There's maybe a few here and there. It's always been fairly difficult to overtake around Zandvoort. And we went into this race expecting that, it's just going to be a carbon copy of what happened during the sprint, but just 2 hours instead of 1 hour. And my God, were we all wrong. That was probably one of the most chaotic, and in my own opinion, that was one of the best races I've seen this season so far. We've had a lot of great races, and I know that's a phrase that I've probably said hundreds of times through this season so far, because obviously Japan was great, and we had Miami, and there's loads of different races that we had that were very fun. But Zandvoort, it delivered this weekend. What a Grand Prix. So look, chaps, I actually feel that this race, we can kind of break this up into like sort of 2 or 3 parts in this, because there is sort of 2 or 3 stories with this race. First off, look, starting out, we kind of seen that, it was a little bit wet at certain parts of the track. We kind of thought to ourselves, is it going to get a little bit more sort of, slippery out there? We're going to get more rain. Obviously, they came across and said, nope, it's not going to happen. we thought, yeah, okay, well, it might be a little bit sketchy during the first couple of laps. But kicking it off, great start for Lando, but terrible start for George Russell. We had George Russell almost taking out Oscar Piastri with, in my own opinion, was a brain-dead defensive move, because in that sort of reaction to trying to not crash into Russell, Piastri had to then nip across to the left side of the track, but of course he kind of moved into the side of Charles, who then moved across the side of Hamilton, and then Hamilton had to move out of the way in reaction to Charles, but unfortunately he kind of banged into the side of Verstappen, and Verstappen was somewhat in the grass going down the turn one. All chaotic going into there. But of course, you know, the troubles of Max Verstappen going into the grass didn't stop there, because coming back at the last corner at the start of lap 1, holy moly, that was a huge crash. We had Max Verstappen coming around the banked corner at the very last turn. Pretty much he went off, or his wheel kind of touched the sort of paint strip thing just along the side of the track. Pretty much in wet conditions, those things are just basically like ice, so it's just hard to control, and your car will just go all over the place. And especially with these cars as well, with the amount of power that they have going down that straight, something was going to happen. But my God, he absolutely obliterated that Red Bull car into that barrier. Red Bull parts everywhere, but thankfully he got out of the car, he was okay, he was able to walk it off, and he was able to get back to the pits. So look, all good on that sort of side of things. But obviously a huge disappointment for the Dutch fans and the Max Verstappen fans that were all there, you know, showing up for the final Dutch Grand Prix, and I'm sure that was a huge disappointment. You could actually see some of the fans were leaving the stands at that stage when they seen that happen. But of course, look, that brought out a red flag. But after the resumption, or just even before the resumption of the start of the race, we had Ollie Behrman coming back around for the formation lap. His car just died, everything switched off, and unfortunately he DNF'd, which meant we got another formation lap. But then eventually things got going again. We had Antonelli with an absolutely great getaway to get by Lando down into turn 1. We then also had Piastri getting by George just after that sort of banking corner, that really cool twisty corner, just that sort of pretty much at turn 5 going into turn 6, going down that sort of straightaway sort of, well, it's not really straight, it's kind of curvy, whatever, but it was a brilliant move. He seen an opportunity, went for it. It was awesome. Then we had that George and Charles battle, and you could kind of see Hamilton sort of lingering in the background as well, trying to see if he could maybe pick up some pieces out of that little battle. But that it did go on for a while, but nothing, I'm not saying nothing really happened out of it. It was just George went into the pits on lap 18 to box for hards. I was kind of hoping for more battling out of that particular battle there. But then unfortunately, Piastri had a very, very slow pit stop when he came in, because obviously he wanted to try and defend from George. But that allowed George to get back through. Then we had chaps, and this is where we're gonna stop it here. I'm gonna get your opinion on this point of the race. We had probably one of the most incredible battles, probably the best battle I have seen all season long, between Carlos Sainz, Arvid Lindblad, Nico Hulkenberg, Pierre Gasly, and I'm sure Yuki Tsunoda was in there as well. That battle that lasted, I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 laps. Incredible. Absolutely bloody incredible. I want to see more of that. And I know we were actually chatting in the group chat at one stage. We were even saying, I think Damien, you mentioned it, you were just like, yeah, the cameraman needs to stay on this battle. But Damien, I'll throw it over to you first. What did you make of that, just that part of the Grand Prix, all the way from Max binning it into the wall all the way down to that incredible battle that we got there between those 4 or 5 drivers? At one stage I was about to give Hulkenberg my driver of the day, because that was just brilliant viewing.
Yeah, it was when I saw the little bit of wet on the track, I woke up about maybe 10 or 15 minutes after the race had actually started. It was a 6 a.m. one for me. So I was watching on a little bit of a delay, and when I saw the rain, I was like, that's okay, I'll probably catch up with the live feed, because somebody's bound to crash in these first few laps. And yeah, we got through, what was it, 1 lap, and Max hit the curb paint, as you said there, and spun off into the wall. I thought I'd see some Cadillac mechanics running out to gather up his brakes and his suspension, just to throw them on the Cadillac to make that a better car, but didn't see them out there. But yeah, I felt bad for Max, like his home Grand Prix, the last one we have on the calendar for a while at the Netherlands, as you said earlier at the top of the show. Hope we get it back at some stage, and they can they can figure out the finances on that one, because it's a great track. I think it's one of my favorites. It's like an old wooden rickety fast roller coaster. So yeah, felt bad for Max crashing out on the first lap, and I was hoping that the crowd wouldn't, be too deflated. But yeah, they got behind everybody else that was left in it, and so the atmosphere seemed to be great the whole way throughout the rest of the race. So yeah, when it got going again, it was a case of who can make the best start out of the restart there, and yeah, Antonelli, by I think it was the first, was it turn one, maybe by turn two he was ahead, and yeah, he had a fantastic start. He got away well. So yeah, it was at that point I thought, right, okay, Kimi's probably going to run away with this now, but yeah, there was still a lot of racing to do at that point. The midfield battle, as you're talking about, and I think we talked about this last week in the summer break show, the battle between Alpine and the Racing Bulls, and maybe Haas in around them, and Audi. It was great to actually again see that come back on track, and yeah, that was a fantastic battle. And as you said, yeah, I was screaming at the TV director, is like, do not go back to the crap at the front. We know it's all going to be the same for the next 10 laps. Stay with this one. But yeah, so we got about 3, 4, or 5 laps out of it, and it was great. There was, I think, 3 cars side by side at one point going into one corner. There was people overtaking, then it was coming back at the next corner. Yeah, it was a fantastic battle, and yeah, that's the kind of racing we want to see all the way through the pack. And yeah, that battle is just going to continue for the rest of the season. It was great to watch.
Definitely. And Isidro, those battles, we had George and Charles and Hamilton all squabbling there. We had that incredible battle there. Sainz, Lindblad, Hulkenberg, massive Max Verstappen crash. What was your view on the start of that race as well? To be honest, it was great to see that, especially for Zandvoort.
Verstappen crashing was disappointing. I imagine that from all the people in Zandvoort, I can see a couple of them leave because they were there for Max Verstappen, and they probably went home earlier than everyone else. But the rest of the crowd stayed there. They had a good battles at front with Leclerc, Hamilton, Russell, Kimi, and Norris. Piastri, more or less. And then in the mid pack, we had, like you were talking about, we have Gasly, Hulkenberg, that he was great this weekend. Lindblad. There was fun in every part of the track.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I to be honest, like, again, like, I know, yeah, we are losing Zandvoort, and I know, yeah, more than likely it might make a return. It'll always be one of those tracks that might be in reserve somewhere. But from what I was doing my own sort of research, I was looking at it, like, apparently there's, like, for the actual event organizers, the people who own the circuit and all that kind of stuff, they don't really get any subsidies from the government. There's lack of investment, like it's a privately owned track and all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of factors there. And apparently one of the main reasons why they decided, look, this is the final one, they were like, look, let's go out on a high. We had a huge, massive boost because of Max Verstappen coming in and all of his wins and dominance, and then all of the Dutch fans showing up and having sellout races and all that kind of thing. So they decided, they were like, look, let's just cut ties now when the things are good, instead of getting to the point where we can't maintain this and the lack of fans showing up and things kind of go down the opposite way. So but hopefully, because yes, I know Max and Red Bull, they're having a very, very, very difficult season so far. I'd say more than likely, look, Max, incredible driver. They've got a great team behind them there. Eventually, they'll be able to fix what's going on, and more than likely, they'll be able to come back in some way, shape, or form. And hopefully, because of that, and maybe a little bit of a Max Verstappen resurgence, we might even see something like Zandvoort coming back at some stage. It'd be great to, hopefully get it back, because even as Damien mentioned there earlier, Zandvoort, it's one of those old school F1 tracks where, like it's a roller coaster. There's loads of banking. It's not the typical tracks that we have now. It's a very historic track. It'd be great to get it back in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, definitely very interesting start. That was part one, I feel, of the race. Part two, I feel, was very much dominated by Ferrari. There was a lot of things going on with Ferrari during the second part of that race. We had Leclerc and Piastri battling, which was great because then eventually Leclerc finally got by Piastri. I think it was roughly on lap 34. And then we had Hamilton pulling off an amazing move as well to also get by Piastri on lap 35. Piastri was definitely finding it difficult out there during that Grand Prix. But then things got a little bit spicy at Ferrari. I think, you know, when Charles was told to come in and box, I think it was very evident he just completely ignored the pit wall. He said something in Italian or something, and I think the basic answer was, no, I'm not coming in. Screw you guys. I'm going out. I'm still racing here. I want to keep my position. And then we also had Hamilton complaining as a result of that they were losing time behind Charles. Hamilton was definitely not a happy bunny. But then eventually when Charles, he did pit, he came in, he swapped his tyres. Hamilton was then released into a little bit of fresh air, a little bit of clean air, so he could try and make up some ground. But it didn't really last for that long. Even though, yeah, he did get into P1, he was leading the race for a little while. It didn't really last that long because Hamilton then had to come back in and obviously pit for, I'm not sure it was fresh hards or mediums or something like that anyway. Damien, I kind of feel that there's some cracks that are still there at Ferrari, like the Hamilton and Leclerc sort of relationship. I don't think it's all rosy as people think it might be. Like, I know we have these little clips that we might see online of both Hamilton and Charles in the paddock and having all these really funny interactions and all this kind of stuff. But I think ego has a very big part to play in that. That relationship there is, I don't think it's solid. And to be honest, I think in hindsight, I don't think, for like, obviously, yeah, driving for Ferrari is great and all that kind of good stuff. But am I right in saying that maybe the Charles and Hamilton lineup wasn't really the best move for Ferrari? Okay, having Hamilton, no problem, or just having Charles, but with somebody else. But do you think this is right, or can they kind of get this relationship under control? Because it was very evident today.
Yeah, I think we touched on this last week when we were talking about Ferrari, and obviously in Hamilton's first season of Ferrari, Charles was still walking around like the big boss because he was having a great season, and it was taking a while for Lewis to kind of settle in, even though Lewis did have a decent enough season in comparison to Charles, like they weren't too far apart from each other. But this year, clearly Hamilton has found his feet. He's more to grips with this car. He's very competitive, and yeah, Leclerc is obviously, he seems challenged in this. He's not the definite number one driver at this stage, that's for sure. And again, kind of like we said last week, if a Hamilton or a Max becomes available, any team will take them and they'll just work out what needs to be worked out. So I think if you're looking at it logically, yeah, you probably wouldn't have them together in the same team. But we've seen McLaren having to deal with this in the past couple of years. Mercedes now with the rise of Antonelli are having to deal with, two number one drivers. So it seems like it's becoming more and more of a, something that teams are going for. So, but yeah, you've got two Formula One drivers who both want to beat each other, and this is going to happen. So they're going to have to just deal with it. But yeah, you can see the cracks in Charles continuing. He came back for a couple of races there. It seemed to kind of settle down, but say we had many races where he's throwing the toys out of the pram, and yeah, this race was no different to those. He clearly ignored, the call from the pit lane to come in. He wanted to stay out. He was clearly holding up Hamilton. And yeah, Lewis was right to blast him over the radio. It was like, get the hell out of the way. And then again, later in the race, we saw he was trying to get past Hamilton, and he caused then Hamilton to kind of, break a little bit because Leclerc was going to go into the back of him, which then basically cost him too much time, and he wasn't going to, catch up with Kimi, or it was the Russell, sorry. But yeah, so Leclerc, he's like, definitely, spoiler alert, he's my dick of the day for sure.
You leave my boy Charles alone, Damo.
Yeah, it was Fred Vasseur is going to read him the riot act when he got back to the trailer. That's for sure, because he literally ruined Ferrari's chances today. In qualifying, they only got fifth and sixth, which probably ruined their chances, but Leclerc didn't help. And yeah, he's going to have a serious talking to him from Fred Vasseur's point of view.
Yeah. And Isidro, do you think Ferrari even know who their number one driver is? Like, does Hamilton know? Does Leclerc know? Because I think it's very evident that they don't know who they should, not saying who they should favor, but I really feel ego is playing a massive part in this relationship. Like, I know Damien touched on the whole comparison, with Antonelli coming up and having the deal with George and Antonelli. And of course, we've had that with Lando and Piastri. But when you kind of put into perspective here, like, Charles has been around for a very, very long time. Hamilton has been around longer, but you kind of have to look at it from this way. Like, when Charles and Carlos were in that sort of lineup there, you kind of knew Charles was the number one driver, Sainz was the second driver. We understood that, we knew that, because Charles, even at that stage, had really cemented himself in Ferrari, and he had developed those relationships. He had proven his worth. He had proven he should be the number one driver at Ferrari. But then, of course, yes, we have Hamilton coming along coming back last year, and Charles really did show that, yeah, even though Hamilton had a lot to kind of learn with Ferrari, and yes, he had a lot of problems last season, he still showed Ferrari he should be the number one driver. Do you think they even know who the number one driver is? Is that why we're having these problems? Because we even seen it last year in Ferrari, the problems between Charles and Hamilton, and it's still going on to this time, a year and a half later, and we're still having problems.
Yeah, he has a lot of problems starting at the pit wall. And for the drivers, there's an issue, because Leclerc has been there most of his career, basically, associated with Ferrari. But Hamilton is more experienced one, of course, 7-time winner. And they bring the two of them to the Ferrari, and Ferrari has their little boy, Leclerc. They've been taking care of him to see if he can be a champion, but that's not going to happen. And then comes Hamilton, and he has experience. He knows what's wrong. He wants to change things, and I'm not sure that Ferrari is want to do that. They think they know what should be done, and even if they are wrong, which they've been multiple times, but it is what it is. Leclerc's not going anywhere. He might not be happy in Ferrari, but there's no other place he can go. And Hamilton, after the first tough year, I think he found how to make the Ferrari work, and it's showing off. And I don't think Hamilton improved from last year to this year. Leclerc has been a flat line. I don't see any improvement. It is not bad, but he didn't improve from like Hamilton did from one year to another. And Leclerc has been there the whole time. He knows how Ferrari works. So it's tough, but they need to figure out very quick. Well, or not, because they definitely not winning the championship this year.
No, you're totally right. Like, it is just a case where, you've got these two incredible drivers who have a lot of, Charles, he does have a good few wins under his belt. Hamilton, he's got world championships under his belt, and they are very much button heads. And this was something that we did touch on during our summer break episode. Like, it is something where, it really feels like this is Hamilton's car, this is Hamilton's year, and obviously that's kind of part and part rubbing Charles up the wrong way as well. Like, he's been there for so long, and then suddenly you've got Lewis Hamilton coming in, and you'd kind of think, wow, you've got this power team of Charles and Hamilton together. They're going to rack up the wins. This is going to be a great team, great pairing, but it just doesn't seem to be that way. And honestly, you're right in saying that. This can't go on. This is going to have to be sorted out in some way, shape, or form. And as Damien said, Fred Vasseur was definitely reading Charles Leclerc some sort of rights when he came back into the pits. He's probably like, listen, sort your shit out, or you're not going to be wearing red. You're going to be seeing red. But no, like it's something that, like, when I kind of look back on this and I kind of think about it, was this really the best move for the two of these drivers? And yeah, Damien's right in saying that as well. Where else could Charles go? But yeah, we've yet to see. Who knows what could happen in Monza, hometown heroes for Ferrari, and God knows what's going to happen there. But yeah, they need to seriously sort that shit out before it ends up in a McLaren situation that we seen last year. But guys, that was, I think, part 2 of that race was very much dominated by Ferrari and all their shenanigans and everything that was going on there. Part 3 was very chaotic as well. Regardless of what stage of the race you were watching, this was all chaotic. There was something going on everywhere during this race. But after that whole Ferrari debacle, we had Norris pitting on lap 42, but unfortunately Kimi managed to overtake Norris for P2. Like, Norris had come back, he was there sitting in P2, but unfortunately he dropped down to P3 after coming out of the pits. But that did not stop Lando Norris, because I don't know what happened when he went into the pits. They definitely didn't put hard tires on there. They put hard, super fast tires on there, because my God, within a couple of laps, Norris just flew up to the back of Antonelli and then overtook him on lap 54. And not only did he take over Antonelli, or overtake Antonelli, he also overtook Lewis Hamilton on the exact same lap to take the lead. And then after that, he just walked off with the race. I don't know what happened to Lando in that part of the race. He just, for something switched on in the car and he was just gone. That was it. Brilliant drive from Lando to get back up there. But then we had the VSC coming out on lap 55. So on the VSC, we had cars all going into the pits. Load of people changed over to softs. We kind of thought to ourselves, look, you know, Lando had a really good, time there. He put in a lot of work, got into P1. Everyone's now going on to softs. This is it. It's all over. Kimi's just going to fly up to the back of Lando now, and it's game over, and race is going to be over. But that wasn't really the kind of result of that, because at the start, or after the VSC, Russell had a very cheeky message to come across the radio, because he was in front of Kimi after that VSC. He said, if Kimi is out of the fight, let's think about the team game. Very presumptuous from Mr. George Russell to throw that message out there, if I do say so myself. Very presumptuous, Mr. Russell. Because as a result of that, Kimi just rocked up to the back of Russell within about maybe, 4 or 5 laps, and then pretty much Mercedes were like, yeah, swap the places, Kimi's getting ahead of you. But then of course he was like, is Kimi going after Lando, is that why we're doing this? Like, you could see very quickly all of his hopes and dreams, and his ego was just shot right in the head. Not even in the balls, he was just shot right in the head there, of his ego. But then as a result of that, we got a really good battle near the end of that race. We had Hamilton and we had Russell battling very hard, and at one stage we actually thought that Hamilton was going to get by George Russell to get into P3, but then we had a very late VSC as a result of the two Williams boys coming into very close contact. And when I say very close contact, they basically fucking ran themselves both off the road at turn 1, and of course there was an entire load of debris all over the track going over into the banking corner and back onto the main straight. So that brought out another VSC, which definitely saved George's race. But even at the resumption of the VSC, we had Charles Leclerc. Mr. Charles Leclerc. We can't stop talking about Charles Leclerc. And this was one of the points that Damien brought up a little bit earlier there. Because of the very intense battle between George and Hamilton, Charles obviously came up into that battle, and with the last 2 laps where we thought that maybe, Hamilton's going to be able to get by George, Charles was like, no you don't, I'm in this game as well too, and rocked up to the back of Hamilton and made Hamilton have to do a late defend at one of the most fastest points of the track. He got a bit of oversteer, he got a bit of a snap, and of course he lost all the time that he could to George Russell. So you could kind of say that the VSC and Charles Leclerc saved George Russell's race. But then eventually it ended up with Lando securing P1, Kimi in P2, and Russell in P3, which should have been Lewis Hamilton in P3 if it wasn't for the VSC and Charles Leclerc. Damien, I'm going to throw it over to you first. From that point, from Lando pitting on lap 48 all the way down to that absolute brain dead moment, even though Charles is my favourite driver and I love Charles to bits, probably one of the most brain dead moves he could have made. What did you think of the ending of that race?
Yeah, it was. Yes, the pit stops were pretty poor in terms of time for all the pit crews. They pretty much all went late or went too long on them. There was some issue here, there, the other, and yeah, I think the only ones that really got it right were Mercedes. They were good on the timing. They got the undercuts done, and yeah, the strategy and the pit crew really gave them a good platform to try and win that race from. So yeah, fair play to Mercedes for that. But as you say, yeah, the VSC that came out on lap 55, we had, I think, Lewis, Charles, Oscar, and Kimi all came in for softs at that stage. So yeah, that's when we knew it was on as such. And yeah, poor George was left out on the hards. I think he had since, I don't know, he had them for a good bit at that time anyway, at least 10 or 15 laps. So yeah, it was kind of on the cards that George was going to get completely carved open here. And yeah, Kimi caught up to him pretty quickly. As you said there, I think it was a few laps and he was right there. George had to make those radio calls, right? You know, he's not just going to stand there and take a please swap positions and go, okay, yeah, no problem. But it was a little bit in vain. I think we kind of knew that Kimi was obviously the faster. He had the fresher tires. He was on the softs, and so I think George was on the hards, or at least the mediums. So yeah, he was going to overtake him anyway. But you kind of have to, you know, make these radio calls just to be seen to not be a complete, you know, walkover in this case. But yeah, definitely the very late VSC for the two brain dead Williams drivers having a go at each other really saved Russell. And again, yeah, the dick of the day, Charles Leclerc with that move, it was just completely brain dead. It was like, what the hell are you even thinking here? Like, was he thinking he was going to take Lewis and then go and take George all in one corner? You know, like that's. Yeah, he just didn't seem to be driving with logic today, you know, and I think that's a sign of a rattled, desperate driver. Yeah, he just needs to chill the beans a little bit. Yeah, I don't know what Leclerc was thinking, and as he's going to get the riot act read to him when he gets back into the debrief, I think. But yeah, George was saved. I think George had a decent race overall and probably deserved the podium. But yeah, Hamilton will be spitting feathers, I think, because it was very much on for him to be on that podium. And the VSC, which you can't do much about, screwed him, and his teammates screwed him royally today as well. So yeah, that'll be an interesting debrief. I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that Ferrari team meeting, either post-race or first thing tomorrow morning, whenever it happens. But yeah, I think Lando overall, yeah, deserved the win. He was always thereabouts throughout the race. Nothing too crazy. You know, I think his pit stops went well. He was looking kind of steady throughout the race. Like Hamilton could have won it, Kimi could have won it, George could have won it, Lando could have won it, and I think Lando was probably the most kind of consistent through the race. You know, there was no big ups and downs, whereas the others had issues here and there with pit stops or tires or something going on. So yeah, 2 wins back to back now for Lando, and he's starting to throw himself back into the championship talk, even though he's a good bit behind. If they keep that momentum going, you know, he's definitely in with the shout. And I think he said at the end of the race, you know, they're just going to take it race by race, which is the stock answer that they always they always give. But I think McLaren can feel like they're back in this for sure. Well, Lando in particular, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And like you could even see, I can't remember exactly who said this. It was one of the Sky Sports commentators. It was like, what was it? It was either in they actually said this, or maybe was it when they were actually saying it to Lando, when they were actually all lining up when they're asking about their thoughts and stuff like that after the race. They were like, oh, you're now basically in Max Verstappen's shoes where he was in 2024, and you can even see Lando, a little smirk coming off of him. And I think that's very, very true, actually, because I think he's 68 or 63 points or something in the difference between him and Kimi Antonelli. So, you know, you consider 3 or 4 races, maybe 5, he's there, you know, and like that will very much be kind of a 2024 sort of Max Verstappen recharge. Like, I mean, I remember us, like we were talking 83 points. That's it. Sorry. Someone said 63 or something like that, but 83. Still 5, 6, maybe even 7 races, who knows, but he's still within a very fighting chance to get there. And we were saying this about Verstappen coming back for against Lando, what was it, in 24, I think it was, you know, that the dinosaur, you know, the T-Rex coming up from behind, and it was even last year as well, we thought that was going to be the case. So like, yeah, a lot can change. But Isidro, I want to get your thoughts on this. Did you enjoy the end of that race? I mean, we had that really, really good battle there, obviously with Lando and Kimi. Now I know obviously Kimi, it didn't really last that long, but it was very impressive with Lando how quick he got back up to the back of Kimi to try and secure that P1. But then also as well, do you agree, brain dead move by Charles? And then lastly, we cannot forget, because we know you love mentioning about Mr. Fernando Alonso in the points with Aston Martin. What did you think at the end of that race?
I think Alonso in the top 10 is nice to see, that the first true points, because the points he got in Monaco was not really the typical dispute of points in a race. These ones, it showed that Alonso is back. Aston Martin, it seems to have their affair in order. So hopefully we see more Alonso in the points. On Lando, he did a great race. On the commentators on F1, they were saying that he seems to be a happy world champion driver today, compared what he's been doing and what he did last year. That it felt that beginning of this year he didn't feel like a champion, but today he drove very well. He fought everyone, and yeah, he truly deserved the victory. On Russell, I'm not a big fan of Russell, but when he was second, I want him to be second, because I would get a point. But then he got third, and I was like, well, I don't get anything, so you can just let yourself be overtaken by Hamilton. But Russell was very good, considering that he was being attacked by Hamilton, and Hamilton was really going for the podium. And the move from Leclerc, it was kind of, I don't want to say it was a dick move, because Leclerc would never get anything from that move. It was just I think it was more of internal battle between, just to say Hamilton, I'm still here. So, and it was interesting, and luckily for Russell, Sainz decided that Albon car did an adjustment straight away, so that happened and helped Russell to just to get the victory. Because if it wasn't for that, I'm pretty sure that Hamilton would just get the podium today.
Yeah, no, it would have been nice to see Hamilton on that podium. And a little caveat or segue. Yes, I'm using professional corporate words that we all like to use during our work presentations or meetings. It feels like a very Microsoft Teams word to use. Just a little caveat onto this part of this statement here. Completely irrelevant to what we're talking about here. Last night, myself and my wife were watching Toy Story 5, and throughout the whole thing, when I seen Sheriff Woody, all I could see was George Russell. It's, you know, like for so long, like we've been throwing the jokes in. We even had a thumbnail here back in Canada of Sheriff Woody behind the barrier with George DNF'd. And it's just so funny. The more that you say it, and I was watching Toy Story 5 last night, all I could see was George Russell's face. It's so uncanny. But that's my little caveat. But going back to what you said there, Cedro, totally agree. Like, it was obviously, yeah, it was good to see Fernando in the points, and as you said, yeah, as a result of race pace, he did so well. absolutely raced his heart out to get into there to finish in P9 for those 2 points. Absolutely incredible. But yeah, look, there's definitely going to be a big debrief for Ferrari. There's going to be a lot of things to kind of look back on for Mercedes between Antonelli and George. There's going to be a lot of time now, because obviously we've got 2 weeks now before we go to Monza, that there's going to be a lot of reflecting to do on this Dutch GP. But that was the Dutch GP, and my God, it was absolutely brilliant. From lights out to the checkered flag, it was excellent. It was excellent to watch, and I think that was a great way to wrap up the final Dutch Grand Prix. But as I said at the start of the episode, folks, not all is lost, because we do get Portimao as a replacement for next year, and that's an entire massive roller coaster in itself. I cannot wait for Portimao next year. It's going to be brilliant to see that again. But yeah, of course, finished up Lando in P1, Kimi in P2, and Russell in P3. So folks, let's go through the top 10 results for the Dutch Grand Prix. As I said there, Norris in P1, Antonelli P2, Russell in P3. We had Hamilton in P4, Leclerc in P5, Oscar in P6, Liam Lawson in P7. Quick little shout out to Liam Lawson. He definitely stepping into that Red Bull, kind of somewhat a new car for him. Great race to secure points there for Red Bull in the obviously the unfortunate ending of Max Verstappen's car on lap 1. So it's good they could secure those 6 points. Then we had Nico Hulkenberg in P8, Fernando Alonso picking up those 2 points in P9, and Pierre Gasly wrapping up the top 10 with that 1 point. Our DNFs, we had a lot, chaps. There was a lot of DNFs throughout that race. So kicking it off, we had Verstappen, pretty much crashed on the last corner on lap 1. Berman on lap 2 because his car just basically died. Stroll, not too sure what happened with Stroll, but he DNF'd on lap 45.
No one cares.
Yeah, no one cares. That's true. Nobody cares. No one actually cares enough to look and to see what actually happened to his car. We had Ocon on lap 52. His car also died. Haas definitely had a very bad weekend this weekend. Bottas was told to retire the car. My heart absolutely sank, because of course that meant I got minus 19 points for him in my fantasy team. But mainly because he's driving a Cadillac, so he DNF'd on lap 61. And then Albon, because of those lovely little moments there between Sainz and Albon down into turn 1, those the coming together of the Sainz and the Albon on lap 66, his car just basically couldn't go on, so he DNF'd as well. So yeah, in total there were 6 DNFs throughout that entire race. Everyone was DNFing. But that brings us on to our next segment, our driver of the day, our dick of the day, and our loser of the day. Guys, I think I know exactly who your dick of the day is going to be, but Damien, I'll start it off with you. Who is your driver, dick, and loser of the day?
Driver of the day, yeah, I think I have to give it to Lando, though, as you say there, very close second for me was Liam Lawson. To step into a new Red Bull car in this new set of regulations and throw it into a P7 was a great weekend from him. But yeah, I think Lando, was very consistent over the race, and yeah, he deserved it overall. Dick of the day for me, as you know, it was Charles Leclerc for being the biggest dick ever. he completely sabotaged the race for his team and his teammates. So yeah, no need to talk about that one much longer. And loser of the day for me, I think, was Hamilton. Yeah, he got screwed by VSC and by his team and by his teammates, so he will be feeling not too happy today.
And also as well, Isidro, who is your driver, dick, and loser? Again, I think I know who your dick of the day is going to be. Or maybe I could be completely wrong. You always throw in a curveball, so excuse my assumption that I know who your dick of the day is going to be.
So my drive of the day will be Hulkenberg. I think he did a great drive today. He proved he has very good reflexes by avoiding Bortoleto when he spin just at the same time as Max was crashing. So for me, considering that he finished P8 on Audi, so I'll give him the drive of the day. The dick of the day for me is Sainz. Man just signed another contract, an extra 30 million, and what did he does on the first weekend? He just crashed against a teammate. So.
Isidro, that was a massive curveball. That ball was so big I can't even fit it into this room. That was a huge curveball. but it's kind of true. I do agree with that.
It's a very dick move. And loser of the day must be Max Verstappen. It would be his last home race, and that's it. And now it's gone.
And it's gone. Just that South Park meme. Oh, you're going to drive in the Dutch Grand Prix, and it's gone. But yeah,
all the fans as well. It's a big loss for the fans because I think that was a great race to travel to. It seemed to be a great weekend, good fun. So so pity we're losing that one.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Well, look, chaps, my drive of the day, I was very, very close to giving it to Nico Hülkenberg. Look, he had a lot of great overtakes. He was battling very, very hard throughout that race. That absolute, I don't know, cat-like reflexes for him to be able to get by Gabriel Bortoleto during that massive crash, because even going into that cloud of smoke, he didn't even see Gabriel Bortoleto. He just made the decision, I'm going to go left, and he went left and he survived. That was incredible. Very, very close to giving it to Hülkenberg, but I'm giving it to Lando. You mentioned this earlier, Zidro. That was a championship drive. That was a champion's drive right there. He did very, very well. I know there's a lot of Lando Norris haters out there who might listen to this and say, oh, well, it wasn't Lando Norris, well, fuck him. But honestly, it was. He raced his heart out there today, and he deserved that win. My dick of the day is very, very different. I think we went into this, we think we were all going to be giving it to Charles. Mine's George. I just think that radio message was just such a dick thing to say. It was such a dick thing to say. Come on, George. Like, if this was a case where, you know, it was a normal sort of situation where they were both out in the track, there was no virtual safety car, there was no safety car, there was no intervention whatsoever, they were both just racing their own race, fair enough. I would have been like, yeah, okay, that's fair for him to do that. And I know each driver is defending their championship and their chances of winning. I understand that. But that was a very, very big dick move. He knew exactly what he was saying there. He knew he didn't have the chances of taking on Antonelli, and he said a very, very dick statement across the radio. So that's why I'm giving it to him today. But my loser of the day, like you, Isidro, and to be honest, I think as well, Damien, Max Verstappen and the Orange Army, both of them, like, that was such a disappointment for them to go to that Dutch Grand Prix there and see the hometown hero Max Verstappen crashing out on lap 1. Very big disappointment. But yeah, there's always Monza, not next week, but in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, we'll move on. We'll move on to our Fantasy League and our predictions game. The Fantasy League is back again this weekend. And oh my God, it was a very, very, very spicy weekend because for those who did not know or completely forgot to update their fantasy team, unfortunately for those who had Liam Lawson as one of their drivers, they were dinged with a 45-point deficit for having Liam Lawson on your team. So if you didn't change him from Racing Bulls over to Red Bull Racing, you got dinged in a big way, which before we started recording this episode, myself and Damien were chatting about this. I honestly think it was very unfair. Very, very, very big advantage for me to make a lot of ground on Damien. But,
bullshit.
But
that's what it is. Bullshit.
But still very unfair. I think that was F1 Fantasy, whoever manages this, they need to kind of look at that for future races, because again, dinging drivers who technically are still active on the grid just because they've swapped over to their sister team, because Red Bull have two teams, Isidro, two teams on the grid.
Two midfield teams, basically, we're talking about.
That's true. I'm just highlighting that because I remember we had a conversation last year about this and you quickly turned around and corrected me and you were like, no, they're two separate teams.
They are two different entities.
Two different entities. My absolute whole.
I'm sure they have different different numbers and different company registration, so they are different entities.
That might be so, but they're acting in a very different way. That's just basically like me saying I hate cake, but my house is filled with cake for breakfast and lunch and dinner.
They definitely have a shared WhatsApp group, that's for sure.
That's for sure. They're sharing, honestly, Damien, I think they're sharing more than WhatsApp groups. I think maybe allegedly. I think they're sharing underwear as well and socks, I think, as well. But anyway, look, let's look at these fantasy league results. But yeah, look, if you had Liam Lawson, you got dinged 45 points if you had him for your Racing Bulls lineup. But anyway, in pole position, we have still Whip Verstappen with a not so demanding lead at the moment, because in P2, Rampango Marquinhos is catching up very nicely in P2 there. We've got Whip Verstappen on 3,093, Rampango Marquinhos on 3,002, and then we've got Oz Ella in P3 on 2,821. Then in P4 we've got Puma 225 on 2,804, and then in P5 Saptarshi F3 on 2,801. But Damien, I'm not
67, please.
But Damien, I'm just gonna, I'm like, you're not gonna hear this right now, but I'm gonna edit the shit of this episode. I'm gonna edit the shit out of it, and I'm just gonna play in the background the Jaws theme, because right now you were like not only like a month or so ago, you were talking about the Jaws theme and the big Jaws shark. I am literally right now, because I updated the points, I'm only 3 points behind you, my friend. 3.
I did a Max Verstappen and overtook you from way behind. I'm probably going to stay ahead.
I don't think so, boyo. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve left. But then also as well, Isidro, you are catching up very nicely to myself and Damien, because I know we're shit talking each other here every week. You're sitting there on 2,560. You're just over 30 points behind myself. That's very easy to make that up. I just have to have myself.
That's easy to think.
Well, myself and Damien both have to have one shit weekend, and you're right there with us.
Especially seeing you have a Cadillac driver in your lineup, I think it's pretty.
Yeah,
that's a handicap every week.
That's going to be the handicap every week. Going into next weekend, I'm sorry, Bottas, but you are getting kicked out of my team. there's going to be a few more changes going into Monza. But yeah, Zitro, you're picking it up very nicely there. So I'd say in a race or two, if Damien and myself are not on our game, you're right there with us. So
I replaced my Bottas with Alonso before Alonso became expensive.
There you go. That was the trick there. But yeah, the rest of the table anyway is looking good. Everyone got some good amount of points there. It was a good weekend, but unfortunately for those who had Liam Lawson in their team, not so much of a good weekend, just like Damien. Womp womp. Bullshit. It's absolute bullshit, man. But anyway, look, let's move on to the predictions game, because obviously it's been a couple of weeks, well, more than a couple of weeks since we talked about our predictions for the Netherlands. So Dave, he threw in his predictions. He had Hamilton in P1, Kimi in P2, and Max in P3, and those were all 0 points. He had Hulkenberg outside the top 10, and then Yuki to finish inside the top 10. So unfortunately, it was all nothing burgers for Dave this weekend. Isidro, what did you have for the Dutch Grand Prix?
I had Kimi P1, Russell P2, and Max P3. That was disappointment all around. Then I had Hulkenberg outside the top 10 and Gasly inside the top 10. So 1 point.
1 point, Isidro. 1 point. You are the championship leader right now. You need to make every point matter. Every point.
I know.
Well, look, I'm not one to talk. I was going big. I was thinking it was going to be Kimi in P1, but obviously that was 0 points for me. And then Lando in P2, which was definitely very, very wrong. But at one stage I was looking at it and I was going, oh my God, I'm actually going to get the top 3 here, because I thought to myself that maybe Kimi was going to get by Lando and then Hamilton was going to rock up into P3, and I was going to be like, oh my God, this is going to be it. This is the weekend where I'm going to get 5 points. But that obviously didn't happen, and I got 0 for all 3. So yeah, but then I had Hulkenberg outside the top 10, which was a big womp womp, and then I had Gasly, which was my only point inside the top 10, just like you, Isidro. So I've nothing to talk about when it comes to losing points or trying to make every point matter. Damien, what did you have?
I had Kimi for P1, Lando for P2, and Max for P3. So not too far away, apart from Max, obviously. My flop was Hulkenberg outside the top 10 for 0, and I had Gasly inside the top 10 as my surprise for 1. So I think Gasly saved us all this week.
Yeah, Gasly was the saving grace. We all somewhat had the same, well, pretty much we all had the same flop and surprise. So we all copied each other, and yeah, we all got 1 point. So definitely we have to think outside the box here, chaps, going for future races. But yeah, we were all winners and Dave wasn't. So that's the result of this weekend. Does that change anything in the actual standings? Oh, no, it doesn't, because isn't it a case where I think, oh wait, no, it does. Actually, it's Damien and Dave are now back at joint second. Isidro, you're still sitting there. You're still sitting there comfortably on 22 points, but it has changed now. We still have Dave and Damien in second place there on 2 points. Now, I'm on 14, okay? I'm on 14. So, look, I could one great weekend and I have both yous. I have both yous, Damien. Both
we're on, 17, so you have to get 3 to even get near us, so...
Yeah, which brings us on to Monza. So we have to get our points or our predictions right for this weekend. Obviously, look, we will get Dave's predictions over the next couple of weeks. But Isidro, what are your predictions for Monza?
I'm going to go with Russell P1. Now that Max signed up for 3 years, Russell can relax. So, and Kimi is getting penalized.
That's true.
In Monza. So
yeah.
I'm going to Russell P1. Lando P2, and I fancy Hamilton for P3.
Nice.
And Hulkenberg will be outside the top 10. I don't see doing it again two races in a row. And Lindblad inside top 10. Now that his body Lawson is back, Lindblad will also be back.
Yeah. I'm somewhat similar to you. I've got Lando in P1, Hamilton in P2, and then I have Piastri in P3. And realistically, we're all just going with the same flop and surprise because, well, actually, no, not necessarily. Damon's actually copying me this weekend, or for next weekend. I have Alonso outside the top 10, and then I have Lindblad inside the top 10. So yeah, Damien, maybe it's not a good idea to copy flops and surprises here. So what are your predictions for Monza?
I have Lando for P1. I have Russell for P2 and I have Hamilton for P3. My flop is going to be Alonso outside the top 10. And my surprise, I was thinking about Lindblad inside the top 10, but I've got some Kimi thoughts if we're going to go for a Hail Mary.
Oh, that's do you know, I never thought of that because Kimi is actually starting from the pit lane. With that new engine, it's a 50-50 toss. More than likely, he's going to get into the top 10. That's a good call. And
so I think I'm going to go for a place.
Oh.
For 2 points.
Oh.
Very brave.
Oh, very brave. Very brave. The ball's on you, Mr. Damo.
And I'm going to go for Kimi placed.
You know it's all or nothing, right?
P7.
Kimi in P7. So, as Zedra just said there, it's all or nothing. He has to go into P7. If he doesn't, that's 0 points. Doesn't matter if he finishes inside the top 10. That's a bold move, Damien. That's a bold move.
For 2 points, I'm going to throw it. For 2 points, I'm going to throw it.
Well, I didn't get in there.
Because Isidro, now this isn't finalized yet because we've got 2 weeks out here. I'm actually changing my surprise. Actually, no, I can't. No. Oh, actually, I can't because technically Kimi didn't. Oh, wait, no, hang on. Oh, no, I'm not going to do it. I was going to say Kimi outside the top 10. But I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to jinx it just in case. I'm going to keep it how it is. I'm going to secure my points and I'm going to get right up to the back of Damien. That's it. No, I'm not doing it.
That's back of the grid. That process there. That's how you stay back of the grid. You know?
No. I'm sorry, Damien. Like you're talking about your own downfall here. You're going for 2 points, and you're going to get 0. So realistically, right? You have to think about this. If it does end up being a case where your top 3 are completely wrong, that's 1 point. 1 point that you're going to be walking out of Monza. I mean,
I'm going to come out with 6 points next week. He who dares wins, Rodders. He who dares wins.
If you come out with 6 points, Damien, I will never ever judge your decision making or make slight remarks towards you ever again.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I will eat my words. That's what I will do. But yeah, who knows? A lot can happen between now and Monza, and obviously we have to get there first, which again is not until 2 weeks' time. But yeah, look, that was the Dutch Grand Prix. It was fun. It was brilliant. It was a great way to wrap it up, and I'm glad it is, because usually Zandvoort is always a very big womp in when it comes to overtaking. It's always very boring, but yeah, it was good. It was a good weekend. So I'm delighted that they kind of went out with a bang. Well, Max literally went out with a bang, but I'm such a bitch. Oh, I'm such a bitch. But chaps, Damien has one more point before we wrap things up.
Yeah. Just talking about races over the next few weeks, I saw some pictures of the Madrid ring. And it looks like it's like nowhere near finished. I know they had some kind of test stuff on it, but it looks like they're scrambling on that one.
Yeah, they're probably going to pull a Vegas when they did that back in 2023 and just kind of throw it all together at the last second, and then a manhole cover is going up the arse of fucking Carlos Sainz during qualifying or practice.
So I think there's some either F3 race or, I don't know, Porsche Cup race or something like that anyway in the next week or so. And they're saying that will be the test bed for it as such. Might be an F3 race. I don't know. If they don't get that ready, then it's going to be, a lot of late nights, I think, in Madrid for those workers getting that track finished. But it could be a lot closer than it looks, but it looked pretty messy, yeah. Yeah,
well, that race will definitely rubber in the track, and it'll be a good way to kind of determine what's going on. I foresee a lot of safety cars in the Madrid ring future anyway, so it's going to be a very chaotic race as well when we get there. But that's actually after Monza, from the 14th to the 13th of September. So we've still a few weeks, but we are getting close. We are getting close, but still, we have to consider what's going on in Monza. But chaps, thank you so much for taking time out of your afternoon to talk about the Dutch Grand Prix. It was great to talk about it because, oh my God, so many things happened during that race. It was just, it was class. It was brilliant. So yeah, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. It was good to talk to you.
Thank you. That was great.
Awesome. Well, look, enjoy the rest of your weekend, chaps. I will chat to you in 2 weeks' time. But for everyone else, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Whatever day you're listening to this or whatever time you're listening to this, thank you so much for being here. If you did enjoy today's episode and you did enjoy all of our talking points and you've got anything more to add, of course, let us know below in the comments section, whatever platform you're listening to this on, be it on Spotify or YouTube or whatever platform you're listening to this episode on. But of course, if you did enjoy and you'd like to follow for more episodes as we talk about Monza and the rest of the season and how this shakes up, make sure definitely click that like button below. Make sure to also click the follow button and have the bell notification enabled, whatever platform you're also like to listen to your podcasts on. But until next time, we will see you all in 2 weeks' time in Monza for the Italian Grand Prix. Adios.